what you want, but you want me alone. Baby, I get you what you want.
Hi babies, and welcome back to my channel. It is your girl Hena Adjei-Brenyah, aka Bookish Babe. I'm here with another video where I'm going to be talking about books. Yay! I feel like as I've been getting consistent again on YouTube, it's been very sort of like general, it's been a lot of vlogs and one very questionable hair dyeing video. But today I am back to talk about what I do best and know best. Books galore. And I'm going to be talking to you guys about the 10 books that I read in January, and this is the stack. It looks more daunting than it actually is. It really didn't take me that long to read these books. Woo. So the first one is The Housing Lock by Sam Selvon. I have spoken about Sam Selvon before on this channel. I absolutely love Sam. He's a Trini author who writes a lot about like Caribbean people coming to the UK during the Windrush period. And basically their experience of like acclimatizing to the UK, their experience with loneliness and isolation. And the book that I probably spoke to you guys about before was The Lonely Londoners, which I absolutely... and I read The Housing Lock because I was like, you know what? I'm feeling for some more Caribbean narratives. I'm feeling for something funny because he is quite a funny satirical author and writer. This book loosely is about a group of Caribbean friends who band together to basically save to buy a house because they want to like basically escape paying extortionate rent. I feel like even though it was written way back when, during like the Windrush generation and the Windrush era, it's quite timely because of like the renting and the housing crisis at the moment. And yeah, I absolutely loved it. It was funny. It kind of dived into all the different characters and, you know, what they do with their time. And it delved into their romantic relationships. And it was just really, really funny. There was one character in particular who is the main character. His name's Bat, and he's just a money-hungry whore. And I absolutely disliked him, but he didn't flop the ting, which I thought he was going to flop the ting. But yeah, I absolutely loved this book, and I gave it 4.9 stars or 4.8 stars. But yeah, absolutely loved it. Would definitely recommend. And as always, Sam Selvon is fine. He was fine back in his day. He was. I've told you guys, he's my literary crush. This is him. Can you see him? I think we'd be a beautiful couple, and I feel like we'd make amazing babies. But yeah, absolutely loved this book and would highly recommend. The next book is Greek Lessons by Han Kang. Now, I am a huge Han Kang fan. I became a fan last year when I read Human Acts. Mwah. If you haven't read it, mwah, read that and cry, because I cried way too much reading that book, and it's kind of traumatizing, but it's a fantastic book. So I was just like, I need to read more work by Han Kang, and this is a book publishing this year, I believe. It's publishing in April, the 27th of April 2023. I would say that this is for people who are Han Kang fans and who can like tolerate reading a book that is super literary and like are just there for writing style. Like, you're not there for story. Like, you're just there to appreciate the writer for who they are, she is, he is, whatever the situation. Do you get what I'm saying? This is Korean translated fiction. You guys know I've been loving East Asian translated fiction for a very long time, and Japanese and Korean translated fiction are my favorite. And this book is basically about two people in particular who, one woman who is selectively mute and another man who has like visual impairment, and it's about their relationship with language. I believe I gave this a 3.9. I absolutely adored Han Kang's writing in this, but yeah, I was here for the writing. I wouldn't recommend this unless you are a super fan and you can tolerate just reading a book and putting it down and being like, oh, I read it, that's just that. I'm not gonna take it with me in life, but at least it's confirmed that this author is a fantastic writer. The next book is The Situationship by Taylor Dior-Rumble. Now this is more commercial. It's not really my taste per se. However, I really enjoyed this. This book is coming out in August 2023 and it's by a new writer. This is a debut rom-com and I thoroughly enjoyed because as the title suggests, The Situationship is about infamous situationship relationship status. And I'm hoping that you guys are all age appropriate enough to know what a situationship is, because my dad came to mine over the Christmas holiday and he saw this book sat on my desk and he asked me what a situationship was. And I was just there like, Daddy, you don't want to know. You don't want to know. If you don't know, you don't want to know. This book is basically about a babe and how she navigates her relationship, how she navigates dating in London. It's quite timely. It's extremely funny. It's like, yeah, I would say just read it. Like, it's a really fun read. It took me like 2 days to read, or 2 nights, because I usually read before I go to bed. So it took me 2 nights to read. I adored all the characters, apart from the men, of course, because men be trifling. It's not called The Situationship for no reason. And I absolutely loved how the author spoke about the main character's career with her. The main character's name's Tia, but I loved how the author spoke about Tia's career and basically described how it feels being a black woman in a corporate space. And I love that the author paired Tia with someone who obviously looked like her, sounded like her, and who was very ambitious and doing really well, who could help Tia during her career. But yeah, you need to read this. Like, I've not really touched on anything that's happened in this, but let me just tell you, men be shit. Like, men be shit for no reason. Like, especially the creative men be so shit for no reason. Like, I thought you were emotional. I thought you were with it. I thought you were about the feelings, but really, you just like Pums as much as every other man likes Pums. But yeah, I would say read it. I really liked it. I think I gave this a 4 stars, which is different, this is unlike me because I don't really read a lot of commercial fiction, a lot of rom-com-y books, but I really enjoyed this. Then the only thing that absolutely pissed me off was how many pop culture references there were. I was just like, ugh. Do you know what I mean? I was like, it just sometimes it felt like I was just reading tweets on the TL, but I did like it. The writing was really like personable. It was easily digested and it's quite relatable. Thank God that I am freed from the status of situationship. I have no mans, I have no womans, I have no other, but at least I'm not in a situationship. The next book is Open Water by Caleb Azumah Nelson. So this is a reread. You guys know that I spoke about this book previously on my channel and I did say that I found it quite poetic and repetitive. However, after I saw other people's reviews, I was like, okay, maybe I was just being a bitch. Maybe I was being judgmental and I really wasn't giving it a fair chance. So I reread it and I've come back to say that yes, it is quite poetic and it is quite repetitive, but the author has done a good job and I liked it. And it's basically about a young man's experience of finding and losing love in London. I really wasn't with the love part of it. Like, I was like, put that to the side. I particularly enjoyed the exploration of grief, mental health, and yeah, just emotional and mental stability amongst black men. My favorite chapters were chapters 24, 25, and 26, which is like a really deep chapter about losing a friend. And yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this book for what it was, basically. I enjoyed it for what it was. The things that I just didn't enjoy was it was too poetic, it was repetitive, and I also don't feel like anyone should attempt a second person narrative unless, I don't know why anyone would want to do a second person narrative. I just feel like it's such a hard POV to grasp because I'm always going to be like, why am I in it? Like, why am I in this?
Now, why am I in it? And you could have did it. See how I get it wrong because you never apologized.
Why are you writing it saying you? I want to know he, she. or I. Do you know what I mean? Please, why am I in this? The next book is Vagabonds by Eloghosa Osunde. I'm hoping that I pronounced that correctly. This was another reread, and I reread this because I was going to a book club for it, and I just had to kind of like clue myself up again on what happened. I have to say that this book is very much so more of an experience than it is reading it because you want to read a good story, basically. Like, the story's fantastic, but it's more of an experience. I feel like this book is the sort of book that I would love to write an essay about, because there was just so much influence that I just like, I guess I want to speak to the author about. Oh my God, my eye. But there's a lot of like biblical references that I would love to speak to the author about, just to say, is this what you meant? Is this what you meant when you wrote this? But the book is about being queer in Nigeria, and yeah, mainly being queer in Nigeria. And it's literally a collection of loosely interweaving stories about queerness and being queer in Nigeria. It talks a lot about the corruption in Nigeria with politics and money. It talks a lot about God. It talks a lot about the devil. It kind of like parallels between like living and being dead, and it's very mystical. It's very sort of, if you understand, you understand it. But I feel like the author did this purposely, because like when you read the Bible, I feel like the interpretation of the Bible is different for every single person, and I feel like the author did that purposely with this book, whereas it's like there were a lot of like biblical references, and obviously we're speaking about queerness, we're speaking about all these different things, and I felt like they purposely wrote this book to just be like, if you get it, you get it. If you don't, you don't. And I got it. But some people might not. It's very literary, but I absolutely adored this book. I gave this a 4 point something, I believe. But yeah, loved it. Highly, highly, highly recommend. So the next book is a translated Japanese fiction book, and it is by Makoto Shinkai, and it's called She and Her Cat. And you guys know that I love translated Japanese fiction. Translated Japanese fiction has been running my life for a whole year now, and I don't see it coming to an end. Like, these books really be eating up all my time. And this book is very, very simple. It's basically about how humans and their pet cats interact, and how they basically live alongside one another, told from the perspective of both a human or humans and their cats. But yeah, absolutely adored this book. Gave it a 4 point something. But to be fair, I feel like with translated Japanese fiction, or even just translated East Asian fiction as a whole, I could pick up a book that says, you know, translated Japanese fiction or whatever, and it could have like a period on absolutely every page for like 300 pages, and I'll sit there and be like, girl, you ate that. Girl, you ate that. This book is marvelous. It's crumbling in my mouth. But yeah, absolutely adored this book, and would highly recommend, especially if you are a fan of translated Japanese fiction. It is super literary and super mundane as like a lot of their fiction is. But yeah, I enjoyed it. So yeah. Ate it up. Ate it up. The next book on my list is The Three of Us by Ore Agbaje-Williams. And guys, I have to say that this is my favorite book read in January. Like, this book, girl, you ate that. I wish it was like 400 pages, because you did something with this, Ore. You did something with it. And this is literary fiction. Yes, it's Nigerian, it's Black British. It gave me all the feels. It's what I've been crying for when it comes to Black British writers. Jump into that literary bag. You guys will do well there. Not just commercial fiction that sees us as entertainment. Jump in that real life shit. Jump into it. Like, I enjoyed this book, like, thoroughly. And it's my favorite book that I read in January. But this book, and I spoke about this previously on my TikTok. I spoke about it on my Twitter. I haven't really spoken about it on IG, because IG is bad vibes, but we're taking it a day with, as it like every day, we're taking it day by day with IG. We're taking it day by day with IG. Some days I just want to be like, oh my God, I hate it. And other days I'm like, oh, you guys aren't bad. But yeah, today I actually hate it. But yeah, I hope I'm not smudging my makeup. No, I'm not. But yeah, this book is about a young woman who gets married to a young man. They're in love, or they love each other to different degrees, but they are in a stable marriage. And it's also about her best friend and how their relationship as a trio, as a throuple, not a sexual relationship, just a best friend who doesn't know boundaries and feels like she has to be in people's business. And that's as much as I'm going to tell you guys. Like, you guys need to read this and let me know what you think of it. I absolutely adored it. This is Ore's debut novel, and I can't wait to read more from her. It's so Nigerian, it's really Black British, and I just ate it up. The writing's fantastic. The writing kind of threw me how Girl, Woman, Other by Bernardine Evaristo threw me, with the dialogue being incorporated in like the general text. But yeah, girl, you ate that. Like, I spent too much time on TikTok. But yeah, girl, you did well. You did really, really well. Thank you for this one. I absolutely loved it. So the next book I read is Rootless. So the title's there, it's a proof, so it just says there are two sides there. And Rootless is by Krystle Zara Appiah. And this book, I feel like I'm 50-50 with this book. I did not hate it, but I felt really frustrated reading it because I didn't like the main characters. So it's basically about childhood lovers who end up being together in their older years, and then like some stuff happens in their marriage, and you know, it explores things like pregnancy and motherhood and like postpartum and all these really important topics that I would say it's worth reading for. But I just didn't like the main characters, Sam and Efe. I just felt like they ignored a lot of red flags in order to be together, and then they complained about the fact that they weren't on the same page, and that really pissed me off. But that's not a comment on the author's ability to write and storytell. Like, the ending really threw me, and I was even more pissed off because I was just like, that person, no, it should have been the other one. It should have been the other one. But I'm not going to say anything. But yeah, it was a good read. I just really disliked Efe especially. I really, really disliked her, where it was just like, you pissed me off, but she didn't deserve what happened in the end. That's all I'm going to say. She didn't deserve what happened in the end. I also had it irks me that the author basically referenced like a racial incident that happened to Efe briefly throughout the book, where it was just like, okay, are we going to get some more? Are we going to get an explanation as to why she is the way she is? And then we didn't. And then I was just like, so why did you keep bringing that small piece of information up if it didn't serve a purpose in the book? That's all I'm going to say. The 8th book I read, and to be fair, I have to just say this is in no order, by the way. Like, this is not the 8th book I read. This is the first book I read in January, but this is not in, what's the word? It's not in order. There's a chronological order. It's not in chronological order. It's just me spitting as I spit. And this is Chain Gang All Stars by Nana Adjei-Brenyah. You guys have probably heard me speak about Friday Black on this channel before. I absolutely loved Friday Black, which was Nana's debut short story collection. Yes, debut short story collection. Wow, I thought there was meant to be another word. It was Nana's debut short story collection, and I absolutely loved it. And I've been waiting for this novel for a very, 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 very long time. And this novel didn't disappoint. It's highly intelligent. It is one of those novels where I feel like you have to be a bit more clued up to read it. I'm not saying anyone's stupid, but I feel like you have to be with the shits to read it, basically. And it's basically about what would happen if the prison system, the justice system, was capitalized, commercialized to basically make money. And it follows the lives of inmates who are basically fighting for their freedom, because in this alternate world, they can fight for their freedom and participate in these games to basically be absolved of all their sins, whatever crimes they've done, as well as be free into the world. And it's a very, very interesting read. As I said, I feel like I gave it a 3.8. Not because I don't feel like Nana did absolutely well and this novel is not mind-blowing, but I've read so much literary fiction over the past 2 years that I find it difficult to read fantasy fiction now. So when I was reading this, I was like, I'm finding it hard to visualize everything that's going on in this book. But I absolutely did absolutely did adore it, and I highly recommend it, especially if you love fantasy fiction, if you love dystopian fiction. And Nana is a fantastic writer, prose on point. I have to say though, this is a very American book, and I have thoughts about American people in it. So, you know, I was reading it and I was like, oh, it's American. It's American. I'm not going to say any more before you guys come and kill me. Another book that I read in January is Mame by Jessica George. And guys, okay, this is gonna make me sound real bad vibes, and maybe I am a bit bad vibes. I think I am a bit bad vibes, but it is what it is. I claim it, I own it, and no one can really call me out on it, because if you said, Hena, you're bad vibes, I'd be like, I don't entirely disagree with you. So when I originally heard about this book, like, I had not expected to read this book until maybe May, June, when I had time to get to it. Like, I was in no rush to read this book. And then someone told me that it was a really good read, and that it took her like 2 days to read it, even though she's a really slow reader. So I was like, okay, let me go see what this book is about. I had no high hopes. I was like, oh my God, it might be another one of those books where, you know, like, yeah, you know, just one of those books where it's like, okay, there's a black person on the cover, and they usually try and pull us in by saying all these fantastic things, and then it falls flat. And it was the same with Wahala by Nikki May, where it's just like, they pumped that book up, and I was happy. I was like, yeah, Wahala, and then I read it, and it was the worst book that I read in 2022. So I was really scared. However, this is top 2 book I read in January. Top 2 books I read in January. The writing, the storytelling, absolutely everything was on point. Absolutely everything was on point in this book. And had I not read The Three of Us first, had The Three of Us not had more of a literary edge, which I favor, this would have been my #1 read in January. It's so good, and it's basically about a 20-something-year-old girl who finally leaves her Ghanaian home to live by herself and experience life. And that is as much as I'm going to give to you guys. But guys, this is deep. This is deep. This is deep. Introvert girls, stand up. Black British girls, stand up. Girls who want to know more about sex, stand up. Girls who are battling basically being off God and being in the world, stand up. This book ate. Girl, you ate that. You ate that. The writing's great. It's funny. It's so funny, and absolutely love the fact that it's funny. And yeah, it's a 10 out of 10 book. It is a 10 out of 10 book. I had no qualms with it. And I highly recommend. I feel like out of all the books, if I was meant to recommend one to read first that would grip you and turn you into a reader, I would say Mame is that book. It is just funny. It's timely. I can see this on the screen. I can see this being a movie or being a TV show, and just being a huge hit in the UK as well as around the world. So yeah, Mame, absolutely loved it. Highly recommend. Okay, so guys, those are the 10 books that I read in January, and I will be back to talk to you guys about the 10 books or the 13 books, because that's on my TBR. I'm gonna show you my TBR now. My TBR is quite unrealistic, considering that it's only the 3rd of February at the moment, and I finished one book and I'm starting another. But I'm not reading fast enough. If I really wanted to read 13 books this month, I should at least be on my 3rd book right now. But anyways, that is neither here or there. We'll see what happens at the end of the month. Those are the 10 books that I read in January, and I recommend to you all. And yeah, I will be back. Make sure that you guys follow me on TikTok, follow me on Twitter, and follow me on Instagram to keep posted with all my book reviews. But yeah, guys, I hope you enjoyed that video. Please don't mind my nails. My nails are slightly red from dyeing my hair. But yeah, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Until the next time.